In this video, I'm going to take you through the controls of one of my rigged characters, or one of the rigged characters that we have here. The rigging and the controls, all of that was constructed using a tutorial. One of the tutorials, or actually the prime tutorial that I used, was character rigging for production in Maya. And the tutor was Delano Atheist. So he basically showed me, or basically learned from this tutorial, how to build the skeleton and really create a very powerful rig and powerful controls that could be used fully in animation, full body animation, and a bit of facial animation as well. If you scroll down, he shows you how to do your eye rig, as well as, towards the end, painting weights and mirroring those weights as well. So you do learn a lot from the tutorial, and I learned a lot there. So if you really want to know as I go through these controls, basically this is where I got my lessons on how to build this rig. So back to the rig here. I'm just going to go through each and every one so you get an idea of what it can do, or can and can't do in a sense, so you prepare yourself for the animation. So if we'll start from the bottom up, so if we click here, this is our global control. So our global control controls the movement of the entire character. Just, it's pretty one-sided. You can move it back, move it forward. So that's basically what it does. It controls globally the location of your character in the world space. Next is we have our light control. So here with our light control, if you go to the channel box, the options are translate, rotate. You have other extra controls that have been set up: toe, X, Y, Z, foot, and bank. So we'll go from the top, translate XY. That means you can move your character's leg up and down. So this causes it to bend. You can move the character up and down, to the side, you zoom out a bit, up a bit like that. So you can do that to your character. So that's the purpose of the translate. With the rotate here, you can, move the character's foot inward, outward, go up like that, a bit to the side, go down, so that's what you can do with the foot control there. For the translate and rotate, I'll zero that back out. So now we get to our, we're not even done here. So if we scroll down a bit, you have toe, X, Y, Z, and we can try and see, what does that do? That, kind of rotates that foot, at the toe in and out. So that's pretty interesting. Toe Y should go probably up and down. Up to the side too. There you go. Moves the back as well. Toe Z, yep, and moves the toe up and down. So that's what those controls do. And if you go for the banking right here, the banking allows you to, probably tilt it to the end, go to the other side. So that's pretty cool of what that does there. So I'll just zero back that out. Same thing applies for the left leg too. So part of the foot control is made up of the ball, you have your toe, and you have your heel. So basically at the toe part, you can rotate it, up, down, causing it to bend. So that's part of the toe. Of things you can do. Same thing as your foot control, just more specific to the toe area. Then you get your ball. Move your character on the ball. Here it's a bit like lag and uninfluenced, but you can work that out there. Go to the rotate Y. Yep, so those are the things that you can basically do. And the same thing applies to the back of the heel, so it only has the rotational attributes. So the reason why, certain things don't have translate, and that's specifically, there's a reason for it, because your main foot is what's controlling your leg, and your heel is just there to, affect the rotation. So that's the purpose of your heel. Then you have the knee controls. So if we go up to the knee controls basically They're there as an orientation in terms of where your knee is pointing, because you know your leg is controlling the movement, but your knees is basically the orientation in which way you're orientating your leg. So if I move my leg up, I can basically take the knee and move it to the side. So you're basically changing the orientation of the knee, which does affect the thigh area and stuff like that. So that's pretty good. That's what you can do with your knee. I'll just set back the leg back down. Move them up a bit. Next thing is your hip controls. So hip controls, you have to translate X and rotate Z. So with your translate, you can move it side to side, character side to side. With the rotate, rotate the hips side to side. So that's pretty awesome there for the rotation of the hips. Same thing goes to the chest area. You can, push your chest forward, push your chest back, and the chest really does control the head control a bit too. So you can do that. Set that back to 0. Same thing goes for the rotate. We can rotate there a bit. Behind the chest, you do have what it is, your center of gravity. So your center of gravity is basically, your center of gravity lies within your chest and hips. So it's what gives the character balance. So if you click on the center of gravity control, you see that it does control both the chest area along with the shoulders and the hip area. So that is your character's main center of gravity. So don't disaccount for that. Don't not include that when you're animating, like move the legs instead of your center of gravity. So with your center of gravity, you can bend, you can bend, you can jump. That is your center of gravity. So that's what you can do. You can also rotate your body a bit there if you wanted to give him a bit of an arch while you bend. So that is your center of gravity, which does have a lot of influence over the positioning of your character. You also have in the back here these arrows here. These are your shoulder controls. So if you click here, the only option you have set here, don't disclude that for now. The ones that you have that you should really worry about are your rotate. So rotating allows you to, rotate your shoulder upward, downward, you get that rotation for your shoulders. So that's the cool thing with the shoulder controls. Not necessarily important to have, but it does miracles. Then we have our arm controls. So arm controls translate X, rotate Y. It's really good in the sense that you can use your translate to really position where. So you use your translate to position where the arm is, and the rotate you use it to position your actual hand. So that's what you do with those controls. One thing that I would like to mention is that normally when in a typical human being, when you move your chest, your arms follow with that movement. Here, in this case, I'll show you, if you click on the chest and you rotate the character, he's just moving and nothing is happening to the arms. Nothing is following. The arms aren't following. So if you wanted to make the arm follow the movement of the chest, what you do is you click back on your arm control. And if you go in your channel box, there is the option that says follow. It's set to 0, so that means it's not going to be following your center of gravity or your chest control. So if you set it to 1, okay, now it kind of looks like it moved from one position to another, but that's easy. Just put it back to the bending where it was. But now, if you rotate your chest, you see that the arm is following, at least for the left arm. You would need to set it for the right arm for that to follow as well. So now the left arm is following. So if you're animating and you just really want your whole body to be, your arms or your head to follow your center of gravity or your chest, then just make sure that you set it to 1 before you do anything else. So I'll just set that back to 0 for now, and it does something crooked like that, but that's just because you're removing that connection, so it kind of offsets itself. So you can always put it back to where it originally was. And go back like that. So another cool thing with the controls is your finger controls, which are quite detailed and pretty meticulous. So you have this character, my character has 4 fingers, so you have the ability to bend it from the end. You can bend it, so you only have rotation, your rotation attributes here for your fingers. You only get to rotate them, so you can actually bend at the middle. Pretty cool. You can bend at the tip. So you really get a chance to really play around with the intricacy of your hands when you're animating. Oftentimes, animating your hands is quite tricky, but when you have, it's 4 fingers, it's not that bad. So those are your controls for your hands. So the same thing that I've talked about here applies to your right side as well. Another thing is with your elbows, they do serve the same purpose as your knees. They do provide us an orientation of where your elbow is, whether your elbow is pointing upward or downward, so it does have an effect and influence in that way. Next, now we go to the best part, is the head control. So if you click in the head control, you see in your channel box, you have translate, and you have your rotation attributes. So with your head control, you can move your character's head side to side. We'll go a bit better here from this view. You can move your character forward, back, forward, back. You can actually rotate your character's head to face in this direction, go down, so that's a lot of liberties in terms of that. Another thing that you might want, similar to your hands, is you want your head to follow your center of gravity or your chest. So in order to do that, same thing as the arm, there is that follow option right there in the box, in the channel box. You hit 1 to activate it. So it does create that offset again, but just easily put it back up. And now if you go to your chest area and you rotate it, the head follows. So that's really up to you and your preference, in the sense that if you want to make the head follow or not, you have that option there too. I'll set that back to 0 and just put my character back down. Okay, good. Now, when minus, going deeper past the head, we have our facial controls. So if you click on the head control, back on the head control, earlier on, like blend shapes, instead of very intricate facial controls where you have mouth controls, eye controls, a lot of controls everywhere. It really depends on the complexity of your character or your animation. So in this sense, we did blend shapes were created for the character's face. So if you click back out, if you click on the head control and you scroll down, you will get the different expressions here, and it's set from an influence from 0 to 1. So right now the character has a happy face, which is a full influence. But if we set that back to 0, oops, the character has a more of his neutral face, happy neutral. So here in this area in the channel box, you can control the facial expressions. The character's sad there. The character has a smirk there. So you do have the ability to, control those expressions, right? Right. For using the head control. So past the facial expressions here, we can go to the eyebrows. The eyebrows too are quite critical when you're animating, so you want to make sure that you're able to fully have full control of your eyebrows. I'll just work with the left side. It does apply to the right as well, but we'll just do the left. If you click on this box here with the arrow cursor kind of pointing out there, that controls the entire eyebrow. So if you move the character's eyebrow up, down, up, down, up, down, that has full control. But let's say you want to give the the eyebrow or the character's eyebrow a little arch. You might want to click this control there, in the middle, give it a little arch there, and do that a bit to give the character a bit of a better personality in terms of expression. What is the character thinking? So you can definitely do that. If the character is angry, you might want to give him a more of a very arched brow, closer to the ridge of his face and such, in that manner. So that's one way of doing it. Here is the mid-brow control. So basically it does just control the skin for the mid-brow section. It doesn't really do much, but it does tighten the skin a little bit, if I'm not mistaken, of what it does. So that's the mid-brow control. The next thing that we have are now the eye controls. Here, if you click here, you have your eyelid, your eyelid controls right here. So these eyelid controls, they basically control the orientation in which your eye is looking at. So if you click here, you only have your rotation attributes here, X, Y, Z, and that can really control, you have to be careful because sometimes you lose your eyelid, so you do kind of have a limitation in how far your character looks. Even that doesn't look natural, so you get the point, where, how far he could possibly look. So that controls your eyelid. You can look up, down, to the side, so that's where you can control your eyes. Now, if you wanted your eyes to close, if you go to the China box, you have eyelid left control in this case. If you click on it, middle mouse on the screen, character's eyes closes. So that's a way to close to control the eyelids of the character. So there you have it. Those are the controls, or at least the ones that you need to know when you're controlling the animation of your character. It is a pretty intense rig, but it does allow you to, fully animate, and it gives you a lot of options in terms of animating your character. So that's so it is a great rig for that purpose. So that's it. That's it for the controls. And once again, if you really want to know how to build this kind of rig or set up these kind of controls, you should definitely visit Digital Tutors. I'll go back to that site again. Character rigging for production in Maya by Delano Atheist. And it's long, it's quite long, but you learn a lot about rigging a character ready for production. So that's it.